we're going to be talking about another way that real estate agents can get some business that I hardly ever hear about. Let's jump right in. James Brown, tell us about your rent to own program and how that works.
Yeah, there's a lot we could dive into for sure. But yeah, stay tuned if you want to hear about ways to help more clients we can help, more money we can make. And what I love about rent to own is there's multiple people involved. I'm a licensed agent. You're a licensed agent. We can all work together to help people get into homes that are getting told no by the banks, right? There's lenders involved too. Like I went through one time and I came up with like 13 different people that were involved in a transaction. I mean, some of those are the normal ones. There's a title company and inspector, that kind of thing. But anyway, it's cool when you put it all together.
It's a big team effort for sure when anybody buys something. I've seen and I've heard and I've tried to do this for agents for clients in the past.
Yeah.
And sellers typically don't want to do it because of the risk that it's not going to happen. And buyers sometimes feel like they're not getting the best deal. They know what's going to happen. Tell us give us the nuts and bolts of how this starts out.
That's a good point. We don't have to worry about trying to convince a seller to do this because what we're doing is we call it a reverse lease option. We find the buyers first. Like we're in the business as realtors, lenders are in the business and run into people that can't get financing. Once we have somebody that we know is a good fit for a rent to own situation, then we let them pick out a house on market. Just have them go looking on Zillow or wherever you send them. And then we'll buy that house from whoever's got it on market. And we're not convincing anybody. That's the beauty of it. Yeah.
The light just came on in my head. So you're investing in the property and you're creating a rental opportunity for what will be the buyer at some point.
Exactly. Yep.
Fantastic. Yeah. Realtor on the street. What do they need to make this happen for on the funding side?
First thing is send them over to us. We'll take a first pass at them and just see how much money they have down, how much they can afford per month, and where the credit's at. Figure out, are they close to being able to get a loan, but they can't?
Okay.
Sometimes people haven't even talked to a lender and they just assume they can't get a loan. Part of our process is working with a lender, and that can be your lender or one that we work with in that state, wherever, because we can do this anywhere. That's part of our process is getting with a lender, a licensed loan originator.
Okay.
To really figure out like where that client's at now and what it's going to take for them to get a loan in the future. And usually these are like 1 to 3 years or something like that. Once we know that they're a fit, that they've got that chance of getting a loan, then we let them go pick out a house. And so for realtors, like say I was working with you in your state, you've got a client that can't get a loan, fits our program. You guys would go looking at homes. And once we lock down one that they like and that we'll accept too, we've got to say yes to it, the house itself and that client, then we'll put out an offer. There's different ways of making all that work. Like who's involved. I'm in Colorado as an example.
Okay.
I would represent myself or whoever our investor is to make that offer. And then the realtor that brought that client is just kind of not out of the picture, but they don't have to do anything anymore. They've helped them identify a house.
You fund the sale, the purchase.
Yep.
The buyer is paying the lease to own.
Yep.
And the real estate agent that just put this together, how are they being compensated? Because that would be the first question they would have asked.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's buy-side commission that we'll put into the offer. Of course, we've got all this NAR stuff going on, so we don't know how much a seller's offering or thinking about, so we just put it into the offer.
Okay.
And so we do a split of that.
For them, it's a straight up sale, and they're done.
Yeah, they get paid right up front.
Okay. That sounds too simple.
It is simple.
When this sounds unique in some ways, yet why? Because it is so simple.
It's really not that unique. I mean, so here's an opportunity. Home Partners of America, backed by BlackRock, and Divvy, DIVVY, both very similar companies that were doing rent to own in a major way all across the country.
Yeah.
Well, at least most major markets. They kind of had a narrow buy box. Like they kind of look at it like us. Ideally, it's a property that's in a major metro area, near good schools, 3-bedroom, 2-bath or more, in decent condition, cookie cutter homes. That's kind of the focus. And we like to kind of stick to that. We've done stuff that's rural and more distressed and things, so we can get really creative. But those two big companies just pulled out of the market about 4 months ago, they both announced they're kind of sunsetting those programs. So there's a huge opportunity for us to to fill that gap.
Yeah, great.
You know,
How do you guys hedge your bets? Well, you have to buy right. What do you look for as far as the property goes, the price point? You looking for discounted underneath true value, or give us the deal on that?
when we're buying on market, we're competing against every other buyer, but we got to run our numbers and kind of what we do is look at whatever market appreciation is for that location. So like here in Colorado, 50-year trends like 4 to 6% appreciation every year. So we're just kind of looking at that first and not overpaying. Does that answer your question?
I guess it does. So are there markets you will not go in because of there might be a downside. It got flooded with high price points and now it's starting to level off and
Right.
turn around.
We'll look at anything. It's got a pencil, but yeah, like Florida, we got to be aware of flood zones, flood insurance or lack of insurance, or insurance providers that a lot of them have pulled out. So you're limited and the insurance might be really high. So things like that. Texas is its own unique state. They've got some very specific rules around rent to own. There's a limit of 3 years. Most people that do rent to own, they only need up to 3 years usually anyways. But yeah, like a high price area, as long as that rent to own buyer can afford that home in that market, that's how it works.
What about when you're in there? They're in there a year and a half, and something goes sideways. Their job gets relocated, and they're not going to stay there. What do you do with that?
Yeah, they have the option because it's a lease with an option to buy. They can walk away if they choose to. Ideally, we're letting them pick out a house, and so they're committed to it. We want to make sure they're committed to it because this isn't just a try before you buy kind of scenario. It's like,
No.
hey, we're sticking our necks out, buy that house for them. Now they do have to pay a upfront fee around 10% or more of the purchase price, and it's non-refundable. So they wouldn't get that back if they backed out for some reason. That's the risk for them. But again, as long as we're setting up for success, getting with a lender, letting them pick out the house, that's most work out that way when you do it right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's commitment, and on their side, on the buyer side or renter side, both. And there's also some safety net in there for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what happens with the price? How do they know what it's going to cost 3 years out?
Yeah. So that's set ahead of time. Again, so we buy at today's price. We look at what the typical market appreciation is, and we stick with that.
Okay.
We're not jacking the price up to where, because it's going to have to appraise when they go get a loan.
Right.
So we want to make sure we're not setting that price too high. So we're here to make money, but we're not here to like gouge anybody or put them in a spot where, oh shoot, now they can't buy it. So
is there any incentive for them to buy early after a year or after?
Not in these short time periods. Yeah. And we ask them to rent for at least 12 months. Otherwise we get hit with short-term capital gains.
Oh yeah.
But it's never been an issue because most people that are doing this, they're doing it because they need time, at least 12 months to 2 or 3 years.
Cool. I'm an agent on the street. I have buyers that fit that profile. They're close.
Yeah.
What's my first step?
Reach out to me. Like I said, we kind of take a first pass, just figure out like, where's their income coming from, credit scores, that kind of thing. We're not doing a hard pull on their credit or anything, but we're trying to figure out their story. Like, why can't they get a loan now? And what's the likelihood to be able to get that in the future? And then we'll loop in a lender. Although sometimes you might be the client on the street. You've already gone to your lender with them, and the lender's like, they've got something holding them back. And ideally, this is a really good fit for self-employed people that just need more time because you need 2 years income, tax statements, that kind of thing. In fact, I love like a good story. Our first deal that we did years ago, it was an newer agent. He didn't have 2 full years, bought a duplex for him that he had picked out. So he lived in one side, rented out the other. He was actually able to live cheaper than he would normally. And then this was during COVID when the prices just shot through the roof. His locked in price was low. I don't know, maybe 4% or whatever, but it went up This was in Minnesota, 18% or whatever it had
Right.
each year. It was crazy. So he got to buy that at that 4%, but it went up. So he walked into about 60 grand equity and was able to go buy a single family home and turn that duplex into a rental. Boom,
Nice.
like in a year and a half. It was
That's
like,
right.
we made money. We got him set up. He was an investor.
That's fantastic.
That was cool. Yeah. And because he'd gone through that program, he started helping screen new residents because he'd been through it.
Right. Yeah. It also would be great for not just self-employed, somebody who just moved to North Carolina, which they're doing quite often for their job. They don't have that history. They can then jump into this, have the place where they want to live, and then buy it when they have that 2-year history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
As long as we see that they're getting a job transfer, they're not having to like kind of figure it out.
Sure.
Although we've done deals like that. Like one of these ones where we help some people get into a rural property. Normally we would stay away. And after that whole thing, I was a little gun shy for a bunch of different reasons with that specific transaction. But these folks actually had a house here in the Denver metro area. They were able to sell that. They were kind of in a bad spot, but they walked away with some equity because it's Denver and it had gone up. And so they were able to put down 15%, which gave us a little more of a net. And they had extra money that they could use to kind of get on their feet. He was a contractor, so he had transferable skills, and she could do part of her job remotely. So just knowing that they had some cushion, and that's the other thing, like they're paying money up front to us. They get full credit for that too, by the way. Whatever they pay to us when they buy that house, they get full credit. Not all programs are like that. But anyway, I always want people to have a little savings cushion too, so they're not on fumes.
So what do you mean by they get full credit for what they're paying in?
Yeah. So whatever they pay in their option fee, they get credit. The lender can use that, like say it's 10%. When they go to get a loan, they're going to need to have 3.5% down if they're getting an FHA loan, and then pay closing costs when they get their loan. That 10% can go towards that. If there's some left over, great. That's just comes off the purchase price.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And the option, so is it 2 numbers? There's the rent number and then there's the option number. Is that how that works?
Yeah. And their purchase price. It's kind of those 3 things.
Right.
Trying to find a balance for them. Maybe they aren't putting down as much. They can pay a little more in rent or something, just so it's a balance. It's good for them. It's good for us too. There's no algorithm. The other thing too is we don't want their payment to go up when they get a loan.
Right.
We're always looking at in the future like that. Want to make sure everything's set up well for them.
Yeah, it benefits everybody that they can afford it, right? You don't want to be stuck with it, and you want them to be in there. They want it, you want it. That's a nice relationship. I find the person, I send them to you. They go underwritten by a mortgage lender. What kind of time frame between your process? A lender can do it fairly quickly. How much time frame is that?
Pretty much the normal time frame, except we've got to run numbers and make sure the client's on board, and then make sure we're ready to buy too.
On there, just so people can prep their buyer clients. How many interactions are they? How many meetings are they having with you to get all this done?
It's usually just I like to do Zoom just so we're kind of face to face. And I like to record it too, just so everybody can misremember things. So I just want to make sure it's on a Zoom and just kind of see eye to eye. Then there's usually maybe a second one after that, but it's not real complex. Just it's simple. Hell, I can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very cool program. I know actually some popped in my brain. I just spoke to her 2 weeks ago, just met her for the first time. She's on the fence. She can't afford it. She's not sure she wants to, but she might be a great candidate for something like this. I'm sure every realtor that's listening to this is saying, I got somebody. And if you're watching this and you have any questions, drop them down below and we will do our best to get that answer back to you as quickly as possible. So this is a cool program. James, what else do you have? Because I know this isn't your only trick. What do you got?
We've gotten into co-living as well, renting by the room. That's providing affordable housing for renters.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's becoming more and more of a thing. Europe is way ahead of us on that. Colorado, specifically where I am, just passed a law 6 months ago saying that there was no limit to how many unrelated people live in a home.
Nice.
Like that's a statewide law. So it opened up the doors to co-living here. and we have an affordability problem in Denver. So
Okay. So our solution here, I think, is the ADUs, is to get that on the property so that people can have family. I don't think they have to be related as well anymore. How does this work? And let's look at it from a realtor standpoint.
yeah,
How does it work?
the opportunity is finding homes for investors, or maybe they've got a client that has like a long-term rental and they want to get some more cash flow out of it. Can help them point them in the right direction, so we can help with that. There wouldn't be any commissions or anything on that. But on the purchase side, if somebody wanted to go out, normally they might go out and buy a long-term rental with 1-year leases and deal with people and not make as much cash flow versus turning it into a co-living home and getting a lot more cash flow. Or maybe it's an investor that was thinking of, oh, well, we'll do a short-term rental, but laws are going the opposite way than co-living with that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's our case here in Denver.
Yeah, it's
Um,
happening it happened where I was in Massachusetts on Cape Cod. They started putting pressure on that.
yeah, that's kind of going the opposite way. If they've got investors looking, it's a good opportunity. It's very similar to like sober living homes, recovery houses, where you have multiple people living in a house, but we're just dealing with busy professionals, people that need affordable housing. They might be working 2 jobs. They're a server at a restaurant and driving Uber or something. They're just kind of barely getting by. And so this provides them affordable housing. And as an example, so Denver, a studio apartment's $1,400.
Right.
A 1-bedroom apartment, $1,600. But they can get a room for $800, $850 in a co-living situation and be able to save up. And I like the opportunity to help people get going. And I always ask them when they first come into one of our homes, do you want to own investment properties in the future? Or first step, own your own home,
Right.
maybe turn it into a co-living home and then kind of leapfrog. That could
Okay.
be multiple transactions.
My alarms are going off in my brain. It's challenging enough to have one family or one renter in a property and getting the phone calls at weird hours for strange things. What's it like when you have multiple people that don't know each other until this sets in, until they're together? How does that, what is that like? Is it any different, or is it still?
You have to know where to draw the line when things come up. You lenient in one area, you got to be firm in others. So yeah,
It's might be more, it might appreciate faster than a multi-unit would. The investor is hedging their investment with having multiple people paying that rent.
exactly. Yeah, we don't have vacancy. Well, we do, but less. It's like you don't have a whole house empty, and you might be having to cover that payment for a month or 2. You might have 1 or 2 people move out at one time, but if 6 to 8 people in a house is kind of pretty common. So
Wow.
yeah, you might only have a couple people gone at one time, and which gives you.
Are you doing multiple 6 to 8 bedrooms, or are they sharing bedrooms?
They all have their own, yeah, and some are shared baths. Some
Yeah.
might have a primary bath, and of course we'd adjust the rent that way.
So these are good size homes.
Yeah, good size homes. We have a lot of basements in Colorado. That's super common. You can do that. Of course, they got to have egress windows and all that. Some people convert garages into a couple rooms.
So what's the play for a real estate agent?
Yeah, the acquisition side.
Okay.
So like I mentioned before we started this, we're forming a team nationwide. And so we can help people kind of help other investors or themselves. I work with realtors that work with us as investors as well. So depending on what they want to do, either as an investor.
Right. So they could bring the investor or do it themselves. What's your role in that?
If they don't know anything about it,
They would.
we know how to set it up. We know how to identify properties. So we have a very specific buy box. So parking is the biggest issue. Despite our statewide law, you can have NIMBYs.
Yeah.
Neighbors, and whether there's rules around it, you don't want to piss off neighbors. That's not good. So finding a property that's got enough parking, no HOA, ideally.
Yeah.
I know there's lots of HOAs out there, but you can find properties. So identifying the properties and then setting them up. You might have to add some walls, maybe an extra bathroom or 2, getting that set up. And then furnishings, we work directly with Pad Split, which is kind of like the Airbnb platform for co-living.
Okay.
They're finding the residents and screening them. A first pass, we get a second pass, and then they handle all the finances, collecting payments and stuff. And then, but they require that all the rooms are furnished. And so I have a very detailed checklist, room by room, like what we put in there, and got links to order it, really got it systematized. We can help with that too.
How are you hired? How do you get compensated? What's that program look like? Are you coming in as a consultant? Is that
Yeah.
the role? Okay.
Yeah. There's different ways of slicing up the pie, and just kind of depending on what somebody needs.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I have an investor and they're interested in something like this, maybe. What do I do?
Like as far as working with me?
Yeah. Where do I start to to help get them rolling? I don't know enough about it, obviously. How do I engage you and get this all rolling?
Yeah. So we could do it a couple different ways. If somebody wanted to like join my team, I could coach them for free, could provide some just standalone coaching to get up and running. We could work together and figure out how to slice up the pie.
Okay.
So those kind of scenarios are kind of theoretical right now. So,
Right. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So right now the opportunity in this is really in the hands of, until you have your team going, is in the hands of the local agent kind of figuring this out.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we've got a network of people doing it in different markets, the major markets. We can lean on them and kind of plug in different ways.
Now, when you say partner, be on the team, I know you're with EXP. Is it necessary for somebody to leave the firm to come work for you, or is there a way where you could do a referral fee in that program?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We could do a referral.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as like the commission side of that.
Yeah.
But if somebody wanted hand holding and like learn the whole business, like we've got a calculator and our buy box, that kind of stuff, we could like a coaching scenario.
If I come in with a one-off investor, I can call you and say, hey, I have this investor. I want to work with you, send you a referral fee. Will you partner up with me on this one deal? Does that work?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Just call, we'll figure it. There's always a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
As we all know, it's been the worst market since 95. Like, let's get some deals going, even if we're partnering and doing referrals, right?
It all depends on who you're talking to, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Some agents are out there crushing it, some are not. So
yeah, but that's what 5%, 10%. Like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I know you also have a couple of other things you work with. You do some multi-units. Give us a brief overview of the other things that you do. I know it's probably not going to be directly related to how real estate agents can benefit. Yeah, it might be something where they can help out a client. So if you give us a brief overview of what else you have cooking.
Yeah, we've done a few large multifamily deals, 200 plus multifamily apartment, townhome complexes.
So you set up the syndication and all that?
Exactly. Yeah. Syndications, fund of funds. Yeah.
Okay.
We're working on a build to rent project in San Antonio right now. So
is that a single family homes built to rent?
Yeah, mostly duplexes.
Duplexes.
But basically single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And on the investor side, are funds. If somebody wants to just invest in what you're doing, they like your scenario and you got your hands in a bunch of different things, it's diversified. How does that work?
Yeah. We have a private investor club. So if somebody wants to go join that and start a relationship, we'll send out all these different types of deals.
Okay.
Multifamily, co-living, rental, and those are kind of the lanes that we're in. So we'll send those out.
How do investors get in touch with you?
Easiest way is to go to my Linktree page, Linktree/partner with James Brown.
Okay.
And I've got a bunch of stuff in there. So I keep adding to it.
I didn't know which one to click on first.
Right.
That's good. So your links are down below. Anybody wants to get in touch with James Brown, click on below. Again, comments, subscribe. James, it's been fantastic having you on board. Let me ask you this. You've been a realtor for how long? Real estate agent?
I've been licensed for 5 years. Started out on the investing side, and then I've been licensed that long. Yeah. Great. Not as long as you. When did you start? 2003?
2003.
Yeah.
I did the reverse way. I became a real estate agent. And then, so knowing what you know about investments at this point, somebody starting out, what would you suggest?
Depends on where they're at in life. It's always the answer. It depends. Right. But if they're younger and they don't mind living with roommates, I always suggest go buy as big a house as you can afford and get roommates. because the benefit is you're only having to put down 3.5%, unless it's a VA loan, 0 down, and you're getting a better low interest rate, and you keep that first one as a rental. If you do nothing besides that, that's how you build wealth without a lot of extra money.
Right.
And like that's always my suggestion. So
Nice.
start soon before you're 55 and don't want to live with roommates and
Right.
don't want to move every year or two.
Yeah, the
That's my
kids might not
suggestion.
like that either, right? All right,
Yeah.
James, thanks so much for coming on the show. Again, for you watchers, viewers, please subscribe. Stay tuned. We're always bringing extremely exciting people on like James to give you ideas about your business. Be your best. Have fun.